Hello and good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning, Monday morning, April 3rd already. But thank you for joining us once again for our devotional for the day. And as you know, we are going through the book of Genesis, and today we are looking at chapter 23. There are 20 verses in chapter 23. And mainly for this chapter, it is going over the death of Sarah, Abraham's wife, and her burial. Before we proceed, let's just pause for a brief word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for waking us up this morning, for being with us and watching over us during the night, keeping us safe in our homes, oh God. Setting your angels round about our homes to keep us safe from dangers during the night. Thank you, Lord, for quickening our hearts, our minds, our breath this morning, arising us from out of our beds. Thank you, dear God, that we have movement in our limbs, Father, and the blood is flowing warmly through our veins. Pray, dear Lord, that maybe if we have a few aches or pains, we're able to work them out today. We just want to be in your presence this morning. We want to partake of your goodness throughout the day. We want, Lord, to be blessed by you as we traverse these next 12 to 24 hours, oh God. Bless us as we go out to our jobs this morning. Bless us in our homes. Bless us in school, oh God. Watch over us this day. But before we leave, or perhaps at some point in the day, as we listen, whenever we listen to this devotional, bless us, we ask, in the study of your word. In Jesus' name, amen. Yes, well, thank you again for joining us for this devotional. Looking again at chapter 23 of Genesis, and it starts by saying, "And Sarah was 107 and 20 years old." And these were the years of the life of Sarah. She died there in Kirjath Arba is where she died. The same as Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abram came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. So Sarah was 127 years old when she died. There in Kirjath Arba in Hebron, hope I said that right, in the land of Canaan. And it says that Abram came to weep for her. Hebron is a place in Canaan that you will, or that we will, as we traverse through Genesis, or as you traverse the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, you'll hear a lot about this place. This is really where Abraham came to live and reside when he came out of the land of Ur, the Chaldees. It says that Abram came and dwelt by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron. You find that in Genesis 13:8. And from there he went to rescue Lot and brought him back. Genesis 14:13. Here in Hebron was where Abram's name was changed to Abraham. You find it in Genesis 17:5. It was at Hebron that the three angels came to meet with Abraham in the heat of the day, and changed his name to Abraham, and also gave him the promise of a son in Isaac, and that is in Genesis 18:1. And here we now find, this is where Sarah dies, in Hebron, and we'll go on from there. All right, it's again in the land of Canaan, and it says here, "And Abraham stood up from before his dead, and spake to the sons of Heth, saying." Now, who is Heth? Heth we're told, is the father of the Hittite nation. And Heth, if you go back and look in Genesis chapter 10, where it gives the genealogy of Noah and his sons, you'll find here that Heth is a descendant of Canaan, who is the son of Ham, who was one of the sons of Noah. So you have Noah, Ham, Canaan, and then Heth. You find that in Genesis 10, chapter 10, and especially specifically on Heth in Genesis chapter 10:15. So the sons of Heth, these are descendants of Heth, again, a descendant of Canaan. They live in Canaan, get that? Descendant of Ham, descendant of Noah, all right? They are the Hittites. And so Abraham stands up before the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And so we find here in Hebron, which is in Canaan, that Abraham is living there amongst the Hittites. Perhaps, he had a he had a section in the area called Mamre where he resided, but it was amongst the nation or the people of the Hittites. And so he goes to them and he says, hey, I would like to get from you a burial place where I can bury my dead. And the children of Heth, verse 5, answered Abraham, saying unto him, hear us, my Lord. Listen to the respect that they give Abraham, okay? Thou art a mighty prince among us. And in my Bible, it has a little commentary where it says in the Hebrew that they're actually saying, thou art a mighty prince of God. And so they recognize, the people, the children of Heth, the Hittites, recognize that Abraham had a strong connection with God, his God. And they say that he is a mighty prince of God. All right. It says they said, hear us, my Lord. They called him the Lord, right? So they recognize his princeliness, his royalty, if you want to put it that way, really, which stems from his connection with God and his relationship with his God, right? Thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of your sepulchres, bury thy dead. Of our sepulchres, bury thy dead. So there was a burial site. There was an area where the Hittites essentially had a graveyard or grave sites. And they're saying, pick one of these to bury your dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but thou may bury thy dead. Verse 7, and Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. So what struck me as I was going through this was the I don't want to say reverence, but the cordiality between the two groups. They were very cordial and respectful towards Abraham, and Abraham showed the same cordiality and respect to them. All right. And he says he stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, not worshiping them, but honoring them. All right. Showing respect, because here he is. He's wanting something from them. OK. And he's not going to just go and demand it. OK. Even though they recognize him as this great prince, this great Lord, this mighty prince among them. He's highly favored by God. He has a strong relationship with his God, and his God has blessed him. Don't forget, they recognize that he has been blessed, really because of what happened between he and Sarah, having Isaac at such an old age. All right, they see what's going on here. And so But Abraham shows them the kindness and respect to them as well. So he bowed himself before the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, if it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Zohar. Okay, so there he's asking them, hey, I've spotted a piece of land that I want. and it's actually owned by this person called Ephron, the son of Zohar, okay? And so he's saying, speak to Ephron for me and help me with this negotiation, all right? That he may give me, verse 9, the cave of Machpelah, which he hath, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth, he shall give it me for a possession of a burying place amongst you. And so Abraham is asking that for this negotiation with Ephron for this piece of land that he owns. And he says, give me the cave of Machpelah. All right, we'll circle back there real quick. And Ephron, or Ephron, however you want to say it, dwelt among the children of Heth, all right, and Ephron the Hittite. So he dwelt up there, and he was also a Hittite, it says, answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Heth, even of all that went in at the gate of his city, saying. And so we know through different instances in the Bible, it was at the city gates of the village or the town where the leaders or the judges and the governors, the leaders of the town, of the settlement, they would meet and discuss certain things. They would make settlements. They would judge. They would carry on business. And it was there at the city gates that they met. And Ephron addressed the children of Heth. And it wouldn't necessarily be all of the village, but the leaders of the village or the town, the settlement, the area there, saying, nay, my Lord, hear me. The field, he's speaking to this is Ephron speaking to Abraham now, but in the presence of the Hittite leaders, okay, and nation or people there. Nay, my Lord, verse 11, hear me. The field I give thee, and the cave that is therein I give it thee, in the presence of the sons of my people, give I it thee, bury thy dead. So Ephron is willing to give this land to Abraham. Again, they recognize his favor. They recognize that he's favored by God, by his God, all right? And he has such a powerful relationship. He has a powerful testimony, even amongst these people of Canaan, these Hittites, who were not, they didn't worship the same God that Abraham worshiped. They were pagans, okay? And pagan worshipers, but they saw something in the life and in the walk and in the walk and the woof of Abraham, and they saw how God had blessed him. Okay, now remember, he was very rich, very prosperous as well, and so even they are willing. He is willing to give him this piece of land. All right, that's what he says. Look at verse 12. And Abraham bowed himself before the people of the land, showing great respect and reverence. And he spake unto Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, but if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, hear me. I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. So Abraham doesn't want it for free. He doesn't want it just to be given to him, all right? He wants to purchase the land, all right? And it makes sense because he is a foreigner in that area. He's a sojourner with them there. He's a sojourner with them there, meaning he lives near them in that same area, but he is a foreigner, okay? And he doesn't just want to be given the land so that somewhere down the road someone can say that he stole it or what have you. He wants to buy the land, legally own the land. That's what he wants, and that's his appeal to the people and to Ephron. Okay? And Ephron answered Abraham, saying unto him, my Lord, listen to that respect again. My Lord, hearken unto me. Verse 15. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that betwixt me and thee? Bury therefore thy dead. So Ephron, use them interchangeably, designates how much the land is worth. 400 pieces. No, I'm sorry, not pieces. 400 shekels of silver. Okay, and he says, what is that between you and I? All right, I'll sell it to you for that. First, he's willing to give it to him. Okay, and now he says, okay, you want to buy it? This is the price. And based on what he's saying, what is that betwixt me and thee, or between you and me, you and I? He's in my mind, okay, that's an indication. It's like, look, you want a price for it? Okay, I'll give you a price, but it's almost like a discounted price. It's just to say, okay, you don't want me to give it to you, I will sell it to you, but I'm not gonna jack up the price. It's 400 shekels of silver. What is that between us? All right, you're wealthy, I'm wealthy, we have substance, we have properties. That's not a whole lot of money between us, but because you want to buy it and not allow me to give it to you, here's what I'll offer it to you for. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant. Okay, so here again at the city gates, they're conducting this transaction. Okay, and this was the current, they weighed out the 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant, and the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave, which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the borders round about, were made sure. When I went through this, I hadn't really paid attention to that before, but it shows that they actually measured out, the area that he bought. Okay, so the field, the cave, which is what he was really interested in, because the cave is where he was going to bury Sarah. That would be the sepulcher. Okay, but there was a field with it, and on the field there were trees and orchards, things like that. I wouldn't say orchards, there were trees. So it was a field of trees with this cave, and they measured it out. Okay, they drew it out. It was made sure, it says in verse 17, unto Abraham for possession in the presence of the children of Heth. Again, remember, he's buying this land legally. Okay, 400 shekels of silver, and they've measured it out, they've made it sure before Abraham in the presence of the children of Heth. So it's a legal transaction, all right? Everyone is aware this section of land, this area, will now belong to Abraham and his family, his descendants. Unto Abraham for possession in the presence of the children of Heth, verse 18, before all that went in and at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre. That's where it was located. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. So the Bible is like reiterating where this is, this location. Okay, it is near where, it is in the area where Abraham has settled. Okay. And in Mamre, near Mamre is in Hebron, and it's a section now of land that he's buying there, this grave site for his family to bury their dead. And so it's just reiterating the location of where it is. And the field and the cave that is therein, remember, he was looking for the cave, but they gave him a field as well, were made sure. It repeats, it was made sure. It was plotted out. Okay, the border lines, the plot lines were plotted out, were made sure unto Abraham for a possession of the burying place by the sons of Heth. Okay, so Machpelah, this place called Machpelah, this area. The word Machpelah, let me just find it here. Let me get that real quick here. The word, it stands for, it says, it means double. And it's in reference to the condition of the cave. And so this cave, it was not a singular cave. It had like multiple entries or dwellings or areas within the cave. And so that name Machpelah means double, refers to the condition of the cave. It is translated double cave. Okay, so again, it could be two entrances or two walkways within the cave to, as you go in the cave, it could split off to different sections, maybe even different levels. It means that the cave is not a singular cave. Okay, and in this cave became the burial place for Abraham and his family. And we understand, again, that later on, you'll find later on in the Bible, okay, that this is where Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah, Jacob's wife, will be buried here at this site. And we'll go over that as we transverse through the books, the chapters of Genesis later on. We'll find where not only was Sarah buried there, but Abraham, then Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. So you'll see that later as we get through the book of Genesis. I also found some other information. It says here that the historian Josephus, I'm reading some information here, speaks of monuments of Abraham and his posterity that were built in the city there in Hebron. Okay, and so he talks about that, and there are many references by early Christian writers about this site in Mamre. It's later, though, taken over by Muslims, and they've built a religious building, church or chapel over that site, over that area. Let me see where there was something here that I wanted to point out. Okay, so it says here that present day tradition. It says here that this area, this church in Hebron, this site that is built over the grave site that Abraham bought. In Christian tradition or present-day Christian, Jewish, Muslim tradition, recognize that it was built over the cave of Machpelah, okay, is one of the most jealously guarded sanctuaries in the world. That building that is built over the gravesite, it's recognized as one of the most jealously guarded sanctuaries in the world. Only on rare occasions and through the exercise of much political pressure have a few honored Christians been allowed to visit the spot. That's because it's controlled by Muslims today, okay? It talks about the King Edward VII in 1862 and King George V in 1882. They visited this site, but again, they had to arrange special arrangements to even visit the site. It goes on to talk about the size of the area. I'm not going to get into that so much, but there was one thing that I found quite interesting, which I wanted to point out. Okay, it says the cave. Talking about the cave, it is over this cave that the chief mystery hangs. It is not known whether it has been entered by any man at the present alive, Muslim or otherwise. While the cave was in the hands of the Crusaders, all right. So if you go through your history, you'll find that in the Middle East, the areas of the Middle East changed hands between the Christians, Muslims, Crusaders, obviously Christians, Catholic Church, all that. It went back and forth. And so during the period of the Crusaders, when they controlled the area, okay, when it's in the hand of the Crusaders, pilgrims and others were allowed to visit this spot. Thus, Rabbi Benjamin of Tudela, or Tuella, sorry, forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, writing back in 1163 AD, says that if a Jew comes, he gives an additional fee to the keeper of the cave. An iron door is opened, which dates from the times of our forefathers, who rest in peace. And with a burning candle in his hand, the visitor descends into a first cave, which is empty, traverses a second, remember Machpelah means double, so double cave, traverses a second in the same state, and at last reaches a third, which contains 6 sepulchres, those of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and of Sarah, Rebekah, and Leah, opposite one another. A lamp burns in the cave and upon the sepulchre continually, both night and day. And so this is what was written by this Rabbi Benjamin of Tudela is what it is, back in 1163 AD. So this cave at Machpelah can be visited today. You can't get down inside. It's covered over by this other building. It's highly protected and whatnot because, of course, the Muslims also recognize Abraham as their father, right? The descendants of Abraham. So they have protected that. Again, it is a coveted site. You can go there today and visit it, but you can't go down in the cave as you were able to do back in the days of the Crusaders, which is what that account I was reading. So it is understood that indeed there are 6 burial sites there in that cave. So that was what we got out of the chapter 23 today. We find here again the death of Sarah at 127 years old. I did want to point out that she was 127. Remember, she had Isaac at 90. Abraham was 100. They have 10 years difference. And so when she died at the age of 127, Abraham was 137. Isaac, their son, was 37 at this time. So this is when she dies, and this is when Abraham goes before the children of Heth, the Hittites, and negotiates for this burial site in Machpelah. Hope you just saw it. It was just interesting to see the negotiation and the dialogue going on between Abraham and the children of Heth, and how they did business even back then. All right. But again, this is just a foundation for hearing about Hebron and Machpelah later on as we go through the book of Genesis. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I hope I'm losing power. I hope you're having you'll have a wonderful day, a blessed day. The weather has been beautiful. The rain is kind of past right now. Everything is blooming and looks so pretty and smells so good. And I just pray that you will be blessed by God today. Go in His grace, go in His power, go in His might, and may the Spirit of God rest mightily upon you and guide you to this day. Be blessed.